I'm one of the founders of We Up, the Women's Entrepreneurial Opportunity Project Incorporated. I want to thank you guys for being here with us this morning. We have a great speaker, Kanika Perkins. And let me tell you a little bit about Kanika. She's going to share her information as well. Kanika is the Deputy Director for the Mentor Protege program with the Small Business Administration. She is responsible for managing the day-to-day operations. She also works with the teaming arrangements and building capacity for small businesses in the federal marketplace. So, Kanika, thank you for being here with us this morning. And I thought it was so important because we have entrepreneurs that are not familiar with this particular program. And I think it would be so beneficial for them to really take advantage of what the SBA has to offer. So I'm really excited about your presentation this morning. And as you guys can see, Kanika is really hyper. So she's working with 3 computers, but she has a lot of great information this morning. So we look forward to have you. So thank you, Kanika, Ms. Perkins, and we can go ahead and start the presentation and just get started. This session is going to be very interactive. So I'm going to watch the chat. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll bring it to Kanika's attention, and we're going to have a great conversation. So, Kanika, let's get started.
Awesome. And again, good morning, everyone. Let's see, before we get started, I just want to know a little bit. Well, actually, let me add a few things about me, and then I want to get to know a little bit about you, and then we can go ahead and get started. So, if you're here, most likely you're interested in some type of federal procurement, right?
Yes.
So one thing I failed to mention to Antoinette is that before coming into the SBA, I actually was a contract specialist with the General Services Administration. I did that for about 7 years. I specialized in construction, AE contracts or architecture engineer contracts, construction management contracts, so forth and so on. So I leveraged a contracting specific career into one where I was working directly with small businesses. Even when I worked at the General Services Administration, I was really passionate about just getting to know small businesses, taking care of them, and making sure that they had, as my mother would call it, a seat at the table when it comes to federal contracts. So I am really excited to present to you guys today. I love that just about, or most of the people here are, well, women for what I can see in the cameras, and then women who are diverse and happen to look more like me. So that does not happen very often. I've been in government 13 years, and I can't tell you when that's been the case, not too often. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. So that is just a little bit about me. Antoinette, how many people do we have on the call today? I'm not sure I can see everyone.
I have about 45 people registered. I see about 19 people on the call right now. If you wanted to kind of do a quick, maybe to get an idea of the businesses, we can do a quick, go through some of the people that are on the call right now. Would you like to do that, Kanika?
Yeah, you are kind of a mind reader. So, yeah, I wanted to know how many people, I guess, calling in have had a federal contract of any size, even if it's like a small task order or something off of a purchase card. Doesn't matter. Just, have you had any experience in the federal marketplace?
Anyone? What about Jennifer, Shatiqua?
And you can raise your hands. You can respond in the chat, however you want to do it. I can't see everyone, I don't think.
Okay, Jennifer just raised it. Jennifer, you just raised your hand.
I was just, because you mentioned my name. I have not had any federal contracts or opportunity that I've won. I have applied or bid on a few things. I am somewhat familiar with in the federal market because I lived in Maryland, DC. And in my previous life, I was an insurance agent for federal employees. So I have some idea in regards to what it is, but I have not had the privilege of winning a contract or a bid or anything like that. So I'm hoping to learn on what it is that I need to do, what I'm missing. I've done my certifications. I'm MBE, DBE certified. I've applied and I'm waiting on my women-owned certification through WeBank. But that's the limit of what I've experienced.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Anyone else who doesn't mind speaking on whatever experience you have or don't have, or even experience that you're hoping to get? This isn't just about where you are. Of course, it's about where you're going, which is why we're all talking today.
I'll go.
Sure. Hi, is it Keela?
Yeah. Good
Oh,
morning.
I'm so glad I got that right. Don't you hate people butcher your name? That's why I go by KA. Anyway, how you doing, Keela?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for asking. So I put in the chat that I have done some state work and some county work, nothing federal. But I am, thanks to WEOP, I'm WOSB certified and I'm also Hub Zone certified. Don't know what to do with that. I'm in the commercial leasing space.
Okay.
I've been looking at GSA and I can't think of the AAAP or something, just to learn how to broker commercial leasing opportunities for the government, but haven't quite mastered that yet.
Leasing opportunities. Would you mind explaining that a little bit?
So yeah, so that's one of the agencies that I kind of have on my vision board to work with is GSA, and I heard you mentioned them. They do a lot of searching for commercial leases for, I guess, government spaces across the United States. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Keela. I appreciate it.
Let me
And
call
I'll take one more person.
let me call some people out. What about Doreen? What about you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Share with
Oh,
any federal contracting experience or where you want
right.
to go or etc.
Okay, well, I don't have any federal contracting experience. I have been working with local and state government for the last 25 years. We have a contract with DFACS that we currently do for all the DFACS offices in Georgia. And then we also have a contract with DeKalb County where we do all the security for all the buildings in DeKalb County, which is about 65, 67 buildings.
And
Oh,
Doreen
wow. Okay.
she also does low voltage, right? You still do that?
Yes, I do low voltage. We have picked up some service contracts with like Taco Bell, McDonald's, Five Below, doing contracts like that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Doreen.
Thank
Is
you.
it Doreen or Doreen?
It's Doreen.
Doreen. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Also wasn't sure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So that kind of gives me an idea of, I guess delivery approach, if you will. So I think this is a great opportunity to kind of learn about the federal marketplace. A number of you, of course, are interested in it and have local experience. I kind of want to brag on my program a little bit because the Mentor Protege program, that's the office that I help run along with our acting director, Stanley Jones. It's different than the other programs. So you guys have heard of 8A and Hub Zone and Wellsby, and Serve Disabled Veteran Owned and all of that. Well, the Mentor Protege program isn't a certification program, but it is one that helps you gain capacity. It's all those things and none of those things. It's basically a small business who has found its own mentor. They come together, they form a mentor protege agreement. And when they form that agreement, there's two things that can happen. There's the business development component of it, and then there's the contracting component of it. Business development, I like to explain this way. So business development is, I am a protege and I want to learn QuickBooks because I have no clue about accounting. I'm oversimplifying that. The business assistance that proteges ask for is more robust or complex than what I listed, but that kind of helps people get a sense of what business development can look like. And we'll talk about this in the presentation. I just kind of wanted to chat with you guys first before we got started with that. And then there's the contracting component. And that's probably what you've heard about more so than not. So the contracting component is the small business and the other than small business, as federal people call them. They don't really say large business or big business. It takes too long to explain why that is. Just accept it. So they call it other than small business. And it can also be two small businesses, by the way, if the other one is more experienced. Anyway, they come together, they form a joint venture, and they go after projects that, generally speaking, neither one of those entities could actually do on their own. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to see if there's any questions. And if there's not any questions, now we're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So I'll pause first.
And I'm watching the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat yet. So I think we're okay. I think we're okay to proceed. We can rock and roll now.
Awesome. So on your screen, you've been seeing this question, and normally you see presentations and it's the logo, emblem, whatever, of the company, agency. Yeah, you already know who I'm with. That's great. But I like to start out with a question, because that kind of helps open up your mind, your learning into what it is I actually do, as opposed to just listening to me ramble on for a half hour. So we got this question. We have the Protege Small Biz is an 8A, a Hub Zone, and a WOSB, so women-owned small business. Small Biz forms an MPA relationship with Mentor Big Biz, and later forms a joint venture.
I think she's on mute.
What happened?
She's
Can't
on
hear
mute.
anything. Yes, she's been on mute for about 30 seconds.
Okay, is that better?
Are you there, Kanika?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my apologies. I'll read this once more. So Protege Small Business 8A Hub Zone and WOSB. Small Biz forms an MPA relationship with Mentor Big Biz, and later a joint venture. Which certifications does that joint venture possess? So this is your time to participate. Is it A, 8A, B, Hub Zone, C, WOSB, or D, all of the above? Gonna give you a few seconds to add your answers into chat. Which do you think it is? If small biz is all three and they form a joint venture with big biz, then which of those certifications passes over to the joint venture? Give you a few more seconds.
Some people are saying some people are saying D. A lot of people are saying D.
Okay, well, a lot of people are smart. So it actually is D, all of the above.
Okay.
So my animation was working a little slow there, but remember earlier I was making the comment that we're not a certification program, like we're all of them and none of them. This is what I mean. So you can have whatever certifications you have, but when you're ready to have someone help you along with either business development or contracting or both, then that's when our program comes into place. So that is when you start to build capacity by learning from a more experienced business. And that is the premise. We go back. That is actually the premise behind the Mentor Protege program. So that's exactly what we do. So first, kind of an overview. So let's talk about the benefits. So, okay, so everyone who's calling in today is most likely a small business, right? So what's in it for you? And then how do you sell this to a potential mentor? So like kind of the WIFMs, like what's in it for me? What's in it for them? So there's 6 different types of business assistants. Remember I talked about QuickBooks earlier. So, and that's, again, oversimplifying it, but you have management and technical assistants. you have financial assistance. And in case you're wondering what that looks like, SBA regulations allow the mentor to basically inject up to 40% into the small business. That's a very long way of saying that they can own that much ownership in your company without a finding of affiliation. Affiliation is a word that you definitely want to learn about in federal procurement, and it is definitely something that is in SBA regulations. So one way that the firms could be affiliated is if they have some type of financial, affiliation could happen a lot of different ways. But one way could be some type of financial ties between the two companies before establishing this relationship. And that would be a reason why we couldn't allow a mentor-protege relationship to happen. Okay, so you got management and technical assistance, financial assistance, and contracting assistance. Contracting assistance is kind of what Jennifer was talking about earlier with contracts. So you got the small business and then likely the other than small business coming together, forming a temporary entity. So a temporary company together, which we refer to as a joint venture, and then using that joint venture to go after contracts that generally the small business and the other than small business could not pursue on their own. Okay, so let me give you a quick example of what that looks like. And again, probably a little oversimplified. So I told you I came from GSA, and I specialized in construction contracts of many different sorts. So one of the NAICS codes I'm super familiar with is 236220. And let me pause real quick. Is there anyone here who does not know what a NAICS code is? Because you might need to know that if you want to participate in federal procurement.
No, they should all know what the NAICS code is.
Okay, good. But I just wanted to pause real quick. So that's awesome. So 236220, of course, is construction. So let's say there is a solicitation out there, and it is 20 million, and I'm a small business, and my capacity, and usually capacity in construction is determined by your bonding levels, right? So let's say my bonding levels are 10 million, just using nice round numbers. Well, that $20 million contract is a little bit too much for me to pursue on my own, right? So I get together with a mentor or an other than small business or some small business that, you know, is just more experienced than I am, whatever the case. We get together, we form a temporary entity called a joint venture, and with them together, we have the capacity together to go after a $20 million contract. So remember I said that what you do as a joint venture is something that neither one of you can do on your own. So for the small business, you're going after something that's bigger than you normally do, right? For the other than small business, you are able to compete in something that is maybe a small business set aside. So if I'm an 8A, that other than small business is too large to go after an 8A contract. But together, as a temporary entity, we can go after one of a higher value, so that $20 million contract. And let's say it's an 8A set aside, so they wouldn't be eligible, they'd be in the other than small business. But together, we can go after that procurement. Does that make sense?
And I have a question, Kanika. It says, does this type of venture allow the large business gain a benefit from contracts that show preference to small businesses? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You kind of answered that.
I have a question.
Well, okay. Did you say you answered it, Antoinette, or?
No, I was noting in the chat. She answered it. So
okay. So that question is answered.
Okay. Somebody else had a question.
I did.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, my baby. So I have a small towing company, but we were like offered a bid, but it's just me and my husband right now. So if I was to get a mentor, would the mentor help me find another contract or another company, towing company to pair with so that we're able to go after the contracts and the bids that are offered?
You're asking if the mentor could help you do that?
Would the mentor help, like if I got a mentor, would the mentor help me find another company that would help me so that we're able to get those contracts, or would I have to try to find another company on my own?
And hopefully I'm answering this the way you're asking it. So the mentor is someone you find, and the mentor is not an intermediary. So your mentor is your partner.
Okay.
Is that making sense? So they're not necessarily helping you find another company. You are basically pursuing work with that mentor. Does that make sense?
So, yeah, so the other company would be like the mentor, basically.
Right, that they would be your partner in crime.
Okay.
You guys would have a temporary entity together. You would share a DUNS number. You would share a bank account. You would work on projects together and explain to the government exactly how you're doing that. Like you would do all of that. So when we say mentor, let me clarify, because I get a lot of questions about this almost daily. So the mentor protege, I guess, terms of art aren't what we use traditionally. So when we say mentor protege, we are talking about business partners. Often people think like, oh, this is a mentor protege program, so can I, have them help me with this at-risk youth program, or to, train my kids up in the way they should go. I mean, the questions kind of run the gamut. So that's not exactly what this is. Like, this really is a business development program. And so we do not provide mentors. You must find a mentor on your own. And then this is a way for the two of you to formally form a temporary entity, if that's what you want to do. If you just want to learn QuickBooks, or if they're going to help you with the human resources aspect of your business, or whatever it is, that's fine. But when you guys get together, when you form that temporary entity, like, this is your partner. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear. So we got these.
I have a
Yes.
question. Now, so you're looking at that mentor. Isn't it a way for you to expand your capacity? So if the goal is to find a mentor that has more capacity than you have, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
that
you're looking
sounds
at
like common. Go ahead. I'm sorry. My apologies.
So you're looking at a mentor that maybe if you couldn't take on a $10 million contract, they could, and they have the capacity. Maybe your only capacity is 1 million. So you're looking for that mentor relationship to expand what you're doing. And also Veronica raised her hand. So she has a question. Veronica, she has a question.
Hey, everyone. Good morning. How are you? I have two questions. The first
Wait,
question,
one second, please. Can everybody mute, please, so we can hear? Okay.
Okay, so I have two questions. Thanks for clarifying the relationship of the mentor, because it's not, at first when you said you're paying your mentor 40% of the contract, I was thinking, okay, is this like a regular mentor? Like, I have mentors right now, but thanks for the breakdown. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But
So I can. Oh, okay. Was there a question after that?
yeah. So
my apologies. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. My question was, so the mentors would be like, I'm just thinking about this as an example. So for me, in the airport space, like a larger vendor would be maybe Smart Cart, right? Or somewhere else, or maybe Prospect. And so, or maybe not, those aren't really good ones, but if there was a contract that we can bid on, they would bid on it with me together as a joint venture, and then we would split that 40.
Different topic, but thank you for mentioning that, because boy, is that like an area of confusion. Okay. So I want to address one thing first. That 40% is not a requirement that I stated. What I said, and what 13 CFR says, more importantly than what I say, But what 13 CFR says, and CFR stands for the Code of Federal Regulation. I'll have a whole bunch of resources for you at the end of this presentation. So don't worry about jotting stuff down. What it says is that an other than small business may inject revenue into the smaller business, and the way that looks generally is through ownership, right? Therefore, they own up to 40% of the small business without a finding of affiliation. It doesn't mean that you pair with this other company and all of a sudden they own 40%. That's not how that works. So it is an option, but this is your business at the end of the day, and this is a decision that you make as a business. This is not a requirement. Do not let a mentor pressure you into that. It happens. So don't let them do that. Like, it's your company. You built it and you make it what you want it to be. And that includes the ownership that you have. So I wanted to comment on that first and foremost. And then Veronica, did you have a question? I see your hand raised.
Oh, sorry. No, that was where I was confused because I didn't understand it. So maybe I wasn't listening, or I just didn't understand.
No, they're regulations, right? So they're complex, and then my job is to make them simple. So the other part of what you were talking about is what we refer to as performance of work. So the performance of work, and this delves into some stuff that is a little bit beyond the nuts and bolts of today, but I'll touch on it a little bit. So the question of how much work the protege has to do is 40%. But do not, I know I said 40% twice, do not confuse those. They are two separate things. I know they sound like the same thing, they are not the same thing. So this is what I stated before is something that we can allow with regard to affiliation. What I'm stating now about the performance of work, that's a requirement. So the reason why, think of it this way. So it's a small business and a large business, or other than small, whatever. So who's going to have the most experience? It's going to be the other than small business. What federal government likes to prevent is using that small business that may have every certification in the book. The WOSB, the Hub Zone, the Service Disabled Veteran Owned, the 8A, and whatever else. We don't want other than small businesses using small businesses as a pass-through. And that's the concern. So we have these regulations in place to safeguard the small business. But it is required, therefore, that the small business complete 40% of the work that is based on the actual cost of the work. So the actual labor. So you start getting into stuff like construction, we're not really talking about materials, we're talking about who's doing the work. And that is about as technical as I'd like to get because there is a lot of nuts and bolts to talk about today. So I will pause again there and see if there's any questions. And if there's not, I'm gonna keep rolling.
I don't see any questions. So
Okay.
we can keep rolling, rocking and roll. Wait. Oh, from Amy, is that a minimum?
The minimum being the performance of work, is that the question?
No, she
Yeah,
says
like, can the small business, provide more if they are capable, assuming?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh
perfect.
yeah, but the 40% is the minimum. You know,
Okay.
you can't roll in there talking about, I got this 18% lockdown, I got this admin sitting in the front, she answers the phones, we good. No, like you need to actually do meaningful work.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so then international trade education. This gets into imports and exports. A lot of times this is confused with trades, like professional trades, like plumbing, for example, welding. This is not what, and I don't know why people confuse that, but they do. So I just thought I'd mention it. business development assistants, and this is super generic, so this could come down to the QuickBooks I talked about before. And then just administrative assistants. So these are the types of support that you could get from your mentor. So of these, if you can see my mouse a little bit making circles, contracting is kind of the thing that is in addition to business assistance, because there you're forming a temporary entity, you got your own DUNS numbers, you're putting all that information into SAM, you're writing proposals together, having capability statements and briefings with certain contracting activities. You're, putting in bids and proposals, and hopefully you're winning meaningful contracts. Okay, so generally speaking, there's 3 different types of benefits that you can get, and we've talked about 2 of them. So I'll start at the very bottom with business development. So remember I talked about I need to learn QuickBooks. Let me get this, mentor protege agreement so I can formally learn how to, use QuickBooks. So that's the business development piece. That is what was on the previous slide. Then you've got subcontracts. And subcontracts is just like it sounds. So let's say you know of an other than small business, and you guys haven't really worked together before. Well, one way to kind of test the waters and see if you guys work well together is to serve as one of their subs. So, and there's a lot of benefits to this. For some reason, people kind of scoff at this one a little bit, but at the end of the day, money is money. And whatever you take from this, you can use on your own, meaning when you are a sub, you kind of get to see the lay of the land. So let's say it's a GSA contract and you want to learn about GSA. Well, this kind of, shows you okay, what some of the processes are, what are some of the forms, who are some of the key players, some of the cores or contracting officer representatives, some of the PMs or project managers. You get to kind of learn that federal marketplace a little bit better this way without any real risk to you, because you're a sub. So the federal government, the CO has no privity with you. It's just pretty much you waiting on your prime to tell you, go ahead and put that plumbing in. That's it. And then there's joint ventures, which is what I talked about. This is the protege and mentor forming a temporary entity, going after contracts that neither one of them can get on their own. So I like how this slide is set up. This was someone else's doing, but I kind of want to make some things clear too. So you don't need our program to learn QuickBooks at the end of the day. You don't. We want you to be part of our program, but if you want to learn QuickBooks, you just go to whomever. Subcontracts, you don't need us to subcontract. Joint ventures, especially if the other business is other than small or will even soon size out, then that's kind of more or less where we come into play. I like to tell people kind of how it is with these, because the way we tend to sell them is that you need our program to do these, and you don't. So I'm not going to tell you that because it's not true. But with joint ventures, you definitely need us because of that affiliation waiver, and that's the benefit that we provide. I'm going to pause there. There's a whole lot of words. So anyone got anything for me? If not, I'm going to keep going.
Well, Kanika, I want to emphasize, because you mentioned the CFR, and when on a WEAP level, when we train women, we use the FAR a lot. So now I'm also introducing that CFR, because when you talk about affiliations, it's important for them to understand specifically about those affiliations, right? To avoid any conflicts or any problems. So you recommend them being a little bit familiar, reading about affiliations in the 13 CFR, right? Is that?
Yes, and I'm gonna give you all that stuff at the end.
Okay.
So there's not like well, where's the affiliation section? I wish it were that easy. It's not. But I will tell you where in the presentation where everything is according to topic. So, for example, 13 CFR 125.9 is what governs my program. And then joint ventures is a little all over the place, not in a bad way, but I think part of it's in like 121. A big portion of it is in 125.8. It just depends on what you're looking for. But I love research at the end of the day. I'm kind of nerdy about it, but I know not everyone loves it. So it's not a question of learn 13 CFR and not the FAR. That's not it at all. You need to know all of it. And if your customer is going to be a DOD, I would definitely add the DFARs to that. If your customer is going to be GSA, I would definitely add the GSAM to that. So I'm sure, as you guys know, there's not just the FAR, but then there's like the supplemental FARs. And so each agency has their own thing as well. And why is that important? It's not that you have to memorize the stuff. It's when you see something in the FAR, you need to see if the agency says something else. Because generally speaking, the deviation is going to be something, in most instances, I almost hate to say this, but in most instances, it's going to be something more. Like, generally speaking, you're not going to do less than what the FAR says. Generally speaking, you're going to do more than what the FAR says. So those supplemental FARs, if you will, are going to be, a way to understand exactly how that agency operates, how your customer operates. Anything?
I have a question. Someone says, Veronica and Ruth Lee, can you explain the affiliation waiver a little more? So you can still provide kind of a brief overview, but just.
Yeah. So affiliation, and it's a tough term to wrap your head around. Honestly, it took me a few years of asking. Like when I understood contracting perfectly when I came to SBA, but people would use this word affiliation for everything. Well, a small business is sharing the same address as big business. Oh, they're affiliated. That's a problem. The small business is leasing its space from the large business. That's a problem. Affiliation basically means that these two entities are interwoven some type of way. So that is something that is disallowed. Like, you don't get to profit twice. These should be two firms that, may know each other from whatever, but they aren't affiliated, meaning, the protege and the mentor in the same building, but they share the same admin or something. I mean, be a little bit of an issue. Affiliation could, and 125.8 talks about a lot of different, I think it's 125.8 or 121.103. See, this is why I put in the presentation. Who can remember all the numbers? I think it's 121.103. But there's a whole section that talks about the different types of findings of affiliation. So there could be affiliation among family members. Family members are assumed to be affiliated some type of way. So you can find it in a number of ways. The takeaway, without me going down some random rabbit hole, the takeaway for you is that a mentor-protege agreement through my office provides you a waiver so that the two of you, in most instances, it ain't bulletproof, but in most instances will not be found to be affiliated. That's the benefit of having a mentor-protege agreement with the SBA. By the way, that is not transferable. I've had some really crafty firms try to do that. Oh, we're not concerned about SBA, but we're going to participate in this DOD program. So we're just going to use the SBA. That's not how that works. Not how that works. So SBA's MPA is regulated by SBA regs and is specific to SBA. It's not transferable. So just thought I'd throw that in there too. Any other questions, Antoinette?
No, I think we can keep moving. I don't see anything else in the chat box.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and I'm gonna roll through the rest of these pretty quickly. This, after this, we'll start getting into the application process and compliance and things like that. So it's all the, government gobbledygook, right? So the end result is that proteges are able to expand their capacity to bid independently. So that's the end game. That's the end result for all of you. So eligibility, the application process specifically. So remember, we don't select your mentor, you do. So you select your mentor, you register, make sure you're registered in SAM, you apply through Certify. That's a system that SBA uses, and specifically for 8A, WOSB, and the Mentor Protege program. And we are a mighty office, but we are a tiny office. So I have 2 people who do applications. And so we have screening and we have applications. The total is 105 days. Now you're like, oh my gosh. Well, just plan accordingly. And first what will happen is you'll submit your application. I will specifically assign it to a screener. The screener has 15 days to screen. You will either be withdrawn because of non-responsiveness, or you can move on to being assigned once again to an analyst, and then the analyst takes basically a deeper dive. I can honestly say that my analysts do not generally take 90 days. But we say 105 days because, again, we're a small office, and especially since we just combined 2 programs, which was the 8A Mentor Protege program and what was formerly called the All Small Mentor Protege program, but we still have the same number of people. It's 105 days. So those are your steps. Those are 4 of them anyway. Then the last step is to remain responsive. This last one, I know you're like, why even put that on the slide? Because you would be shocked how many people don't check their spam, don't check their email, and then 4 months later want to know what happened. Happens all the time. I even had 2 or 3 of these phone calls already this week, and it's just Wednesday. So check your inbox. We give 5 days to rectify any issues and respond quickly. Some of the biggest issues, and I don't have this on a slide per se, but some of the biggest issues are either you, the protege, or the other than small business has another MPA, but you don't give us a copy of it. It's a real quick way to get withdrawn. Another one is just, we'll call them clerical errors. So the protege who's responsible for actually applying through Certify will apply as the joint venture. First of all, you're not supposed to have your joint venture formed until you actually have an approved MPA. So you're just kind of doing things out of order. So that's another mistake. And then a third one is, let's say you are wanting to apply for an MPA. Your primary NAICS code is 236220, but you're not doing this MPA with that NAICS code. So instead, you're doing it under, what is that, 541310, which I think is architecture engineering. And so it's a secondary NAICS code, but then you don't provide proof of experience in that NAICS code. And proof of experience will look like a copy of a contract or an invoice. So those are probably the top 3 reasons why a case isn't clean, as my team calls it. So maintaining eligibility. These are the musts. So the protege must submit annual reports and demonstrate material or developmental benefits, and also submit annual and project end reports and certificates of compliance. So these are things to worry about like after you're in the program. And the mentor just needs to be there to provide meaningful assistance as described in the agreement.
Kanika,
Yes.
just want to make sure in the chat when you keep saying MPA, to make sure everybody knows that the MPA is the Mentor Protege Agreement. And
Correct.
also, are there any fees associated with this process?
No, this is government, so no.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear. If anyone runs across the website, they're charged a fee for any of this. This is 100% free for this entire process.
So those proprietary websites, and God bless them, there's a lot of them out there. You know, we might be slow, but just ask us, because I've seen them take advantage of firms. I've also seen them, and if I can speak frankly, I've also seen them charge one group of people differently than another group of people.
Yes.
I saw a lot at the district office.
Yes.
And I saw that up front. That wasn't hearsay. That wasn't a rumor. They were two of my firms. And I'm looking at two invoices for the same work. And one for one group was terrible. Like the product, it was like abysmal. The other one they actually put some work into and then charged that guy less money. So don't use them. They're terrible. It's free. If you have any questions, go to the local PTAC. Again, go to the local PTAC. I love the PTAC. You're awesome. Okay, so SBA reserves the right to terminate an agreement for noncompliance if the mentor hasn't provided proper assistance. This bottom one, I scratched out, but I left it there. So if any of you know someone who is in the program or used to be in the program, the way, and I hate to tell you what we used to do, but I still get asked this question a lot. So the way they used to run the program, this predates me, is that the program lasts for up to 6 years, right? That part has always been consistent. The difference is beforehand, they would say, well, we're going to approve you for 3 years, and then we're going to create some process that we just really hadn't thought about yet. And then we're going to have you go through that process, and then we may approve you for another 3 years. That's tedious. We're a small office. I literally have a staff of 4 people, and almost 4.5 because one is on loan. So that's just untenable. I mean, I have like up to over 1,800 firms at the beginning of FY21. So, I mean, can you imagine like how many, like, let's make up this process to have you jump through these hoops so that we can say you're approved when you're already approved, when the regs already say that your agreement automatically renews. It's just an unnecessary step. So there is no renewal process. Once you're in, you automatically renew every year up to 6 years unless the protege, the mentor, or SBA terminates the agreement. Otherwise, you're in. Okay, so verifying eligibility. This is more for contracting officers, but I do get asked this question from program participants. So, you know, a CO, they're going to dot their I's and cross their T's all day. So they're going to want to know, like, well, how do we know that the MPA is still good? And they could just contact us basically and let us know. There is also, and if you Google this, it's super easy to find. You can Google active list of mentor protege agreements, and SBA's list will come right up. So you can see who is actually on that list currently, and it's updated once a month. So that's another way that they can check. So we issue a welcome letter upon approval. There's an active list, and then COs can also contact us. But I have this in here because especially if a protege is part of a joint venture and they're like, okay, it looks like we're the apparent awardee, but you know, the CO is concerned about making sure that our MPA is valid. What do we tell them? So, you know, this is just information for you to know. And then, as promised, resources. So there was a rule change that was effective November 16th of 2020. This is the link. I'm still making good time because it's 7 minutes till 11. And guiding regulations. Again, I promise you did not have to write down the alphabet soup that is our regulations. So I've got a bunch of pages of it. So these are different sections of 13 CFR that answer whatever questions you have. So, was it Keela who said that she was a hub zone? So you, Keela, might want to brush up on 13 CFR 126. You always need to know the regs better than the government. You just do, because people are fallible and they make mistakes. For Wolsby, that's 127. Let's see, my program is right here. The What Are Rules Governing SBA Small Business Mentor Protege Program, 125.9, so forth and so on. But wait, there's more. And so if you want to get more of an overview of where stuff is, period, this is kind of how 13 CFR is broken up. I'm gonna give you some advice, which is some of the best advice I've ever received. You see this section on the left-hand column, SBA size regulations? No one ever talks about it. You should read it. It will really help you understand how the other regs work. That's the best way I can put it. If you understand size, you just kind of get it. And so you may think like, okay, I'll read it later. When you really need this is when you are getting a contract and someone who got the loser letter is upset about it. And so they want to file a protest against you for some reason. So knowing how size regs work is super important. I think it's one of the most important areas of 13 CFR. You didn't hear me say that. So MPP support. There's 3 different types of support. So you can go to our site, and my apologies, this might have changed a bit because we've been working with the contractor to update our web content. So this might be a little bit different. So you might need to do a Google search instead. The active list, I believe that link is still good. And they might have taken the joint venture guide down, which is truly a shame because even though it was old, it was good. That's my 2 cents.
Kanika,
So, yes.
can you explain what you mentioned protest and you mentioned a COC, certificate of competency. Can you explain the protest thing?
Well, there's different types of protests. One would be like a size protest. And a size protest could look something like.
But why? Maybe just a quick overview of why a company would even consider doing a protest. And
because they have the right to if they're an interested party. But sometimes interested parties. Well, let me restate. Sometimes the one who files a protest is not an interested party. So technically, you have the ability, you being an entity, you have the ability to do whatever. But whether it's going to get heard, whether it's going to be successful is like a whole other story. So one reason an interested party might protest is because, what's today? It is the 11th of August. So let's say you were 8A, 8A lasts 9 years, right? Well, let's say your 8A status for 9 years finished August 1st. But let's say you put in this proposal July 25th. Well, and you're called Company A. So Company B looks on Dynamic Small Business Search and sees that, okay, today's the 11th, like they're not even an 8A anymore, and yet the contracting officer just awarded them a contract. Like there's something truly wrong with this. So I'm going to file a protest and say that this isn't even like a valid, this isn't even a valid 8A. So you can file a protest. You can do it a number of ways. You can file a CO protest, which goes to the contracting officer. You can file one with GAO. GAO is kind of like the oversight to the government. GAO stands for Government Accountability Office. So you can file that as well. just because someone files a protest doesn't mean that they'll win. What a protest is really, it's like a gnat in a room. It's just annoying. So it halts everything. So like the CO can't move forward, you can't move forward with work. You're pretty much just we're just gonna sit here and wait and see what happens. So that's what happens as a result. The only person who's happy about a protest is the incumbent on the contract. They're like, oh, that's too bad. You need any more work orders? Because they'll just keep working and keep getting money. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Certificate of competency, I did not mention, but super briefly, a certificate of competency is something that SBA may issue on behalf of a small business when a contracting officer has reason to believe that for whatever reason, this small business does not have the capacity to do the work as it is in the contract. So maybe they have all the people, all the tools, all the equipment, but maybe they're overstretched as far as revenue. Like we did our research and you got like 5 other contracts going on. So like, how are you going to do this? A CO can have doubts for a number of reasons, and the SBA may step in and say, okay, well, let's take a look at it and let's see if we vouch for this small business. Vouching for the small business comes in the form of a certificate of competency. That is the 30,000-foot overview of that. So it's 11 o'clock. How far am I from my last slide? I had the wrong date on here.
Because we actually kind of, Kanika, we had it from like 10 to 11:30 to kind of, add in for the interaction.
Sure.
So
sure. I just wanted to make sure I was through the slides by 11.
Yeah, you're doing good though.
Yeah, I'm almost to the end. We had this community of practice scheduled for yesterday, and we had a technical issue with Eventbrite. And I'm still trying to get to the bottom of what happened there. It looks like people's tickets were getting, and they were free tickets, of course, for a federal agency, but they were being canceled, and then our link wasn't working. So for all of you on this call, we are going to talk again on August 24th. This is the MPP's community of practice. I will update Eventbrite as soon as I can figure out what happened to yesterday's event. But it's scheduled for August 24th from 2 to 3, and we're going to talk about all of SBA small business programs. So not just us, but Wellsby, 8A, Service and Stable Owned, all of that, so that people know like exactly what those programs are, whether they're eligible, and whether one or more of those programs are good for them in the grand scheme of things. So it was
Kanika, that's awesome. I'm gonna also post it. We have a site called weoutwomen.com, and I'm gonna post it on that site because it's available 24/7 with the registration link. So if I can get that,
awesome.
So I let everybody on the call know. So because I think that would be a phenomenal workshop to attend. And I have a question in the box. It says,
go ahead.
From Tanjuria, is a minimum gross revenue required for a small business to participate in the program?
No. So those NAICS codes, it's quite the opposite. So if you guys all know what NAICS codes are, then you know what size standards are. And so again, I like to use construction because I know it. So construction for many years has been 36.5 million. And the size program at SBA had a rule change. It's been within the last 2 years because it's been since I've been in this position. So for many years, as long as I can remember, your size was an average of a 3-year period. Now, for all intents and purposes, it's an average of a 5-year period, which you guys should be like super excited about. Because that means you can stay within a certain NAICS code for a long time. So there is a maximum to be considered a small business, but there is not a minimum to be considered a small business.
Okay, thank you. That was great.
And so and I meant to say this a second ago, Antoinette, as soon as I can figure out what happened with Eventbrite, I'm gonna post this on LinkedIn and feel free to share it with your people accordingly.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, and this was gonna be the topic of it, so forth and so on. And I believe, oh wait, these are the contacts. So I usually have questions, but then I like to put in how to get a hold of us. I was brave enough to put my cell number as well as Stanley's. I'm sure he's super happy about that. And people do use these, by the way. So anyway, these are the, you know what? And I think I have a typo. I apologize. This is because all of our inbox emails changed recently. And I believe it's SBA MPP at SBA.gov. My apologies for that. I was looking at that like, that's not right. But my name and everything is correct. Stanley's name is correct. And so are our cell numbers. So that is how you get in touch with us. Okay, now I really am done.
Okay, and I just want to interject because when I'm, at we have contracting classes, so we really emphasize to our small business owners to make sure that they take advantage of programs like the Small Business Protege program. I work with quite a few entrepreneurs, and some are not aware of the program. That's why I thought having you would be valuable. They're not aware of the program, and then I think in some cases they're a little hesitant about really how do they identify a prospective mentor. And I know in some of our classes, we kind of give them tips, but would you have any suggestions on, in terms of identifying a mentor that might be effective, any kind of strategies or tips, or because the whole goal is really to get a good mentor that would be advantageous for what they're doing as a business. So any tips for us?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I am shocked no one asked it like within the first 5 minutes, because I get asked this one a lot. So, yeah, I do have some tips. First of all, I really do liken the mentor-protege relationship to that of a marriage. Like, you really do have to date people first and not just pick one who, seems like he has a good credit score, so to speak. Because just because that company earns good revenue doesn't mean that they're a good fit for you. And the thing that I didn't go into, and I won't delve too deep, I just wanted to give you guys kind of like the nuts and bolts. But as a protege, you only have 2 bites at the apple, which means you only have 2 lifetime relationships. So choose wisely. A lot of small businesses will just jump into a relationship and then realize later, like, oh, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea. So when you are dating, you're going out on those dating apps, so to speak, what I would do is, one, and this sounds trite, but know what you're selling and know who buys it. Start there. And this goes beyond the mentor. This is just you understanding the marketplace just a little bit better. So once you do that, figure out who is selling to your customer. So again, and not to pick on Keela, I don't even see her picture up right now, but Keela's interested in GSA. And she's interested in a certain NACE code and a niche type of work with GSA. So you can go into fpds.gov, which I believe is now part of Beta SAM. So you go in there, you figure out like who's getting awarded all these contracts, and those are your players. And then you date them, you interview them, you try to meet with them, you show them your capability statement and your portfolio of work, and see if you can like get a rapport with any of them. So, and realize also what your value is as a small business. And I say that because a lot of times when I'm talking, and hopefully I didn't do that just now. Okay, we'll leave that screen there. So sometimes what happens is I'll see a small business get so anxious and worked up about working with a specific mentor that they feel like they have to sell themselves to the mentor. Remember, the mentor can't go after the stuff that you can go after, and you can't go after the stuff that the mentor can go after. One, because of certifications and size, the other one because of capacity and dollar value. The two of you need each other. So just remember that. And it's like dating again. So you are looking to see if they are a good fit for you, and they are doing the same. So FPDS, or whatever that function is now in Beta Sound, is one. Going to local events and seeing, like, you know, who the players are there. That's another way to go about it. That's more face-to-face. I know COVID's kind of made it a little bit difficult. Another way, this one, just be careful doing this. Remember I told you the active list of mentor-protege agreements? Well, that also shows you who some of those mentors are as well. But remember, you don't want other than small businesses shopping around at your expense. So one thing that is in our regulations that a mentor is not allowed to do is they are not allowed to submit more than one proposal for the exact same procurement using more than one protege. Does that make sense? So sometimes they do that and they go shopping around and they're like, what? I'm just trying to get a good price. I mean, it's just highly unethical. And when, you know, firms spend tens to sometimes hundreds of thousands, I mean, depending on the complexity of the requirement, you know, getting people to, you know, come together to write up this proposal, all so that you can give company A better prices to that joint venture, that's just good and terrible. So we don't want that. Be careful of that. But FPDS, just knowing who the players are in your community, and they don't have to live next to you, by the way. I mean, you could be in Atlanta and they could be in New Mexico. Doesn't matter. The closer they are, you know, the easier it is, but they don't have to be where you are. But yeah, those are some things that I suggest, is just figuring out who is able to do the stuff that you want to do and forge those relationships with them.
Kanika, I think those are great strategies, because in our classes, we can't emphasize the importance of those databases and all the information in databases like FPDS. Also, we utilize the GSA e-library database as well, because when you go in that particular database, you can actually find, you know, if the companies and telephone numbers, and you can see who they are doing business with. So that's an invaluable resource. So, and I know FPDS, I used to love being on FPDS, but now I noticed that they're consolidating that into beta.sound.gov or sound.gov, whatever, you know. So it's not as easy to navigate right now. I think when they, you know, get the actual updates, it'll be a lot easier. But that's another side. So we again, echoing what you said, we encourage entrepreneurs to be creative in their approach and to utilize all these databases. There are even companies that put out press releases when they obtain these huge federal contracts. And that also might be an opportunity for a small business when they see someone coming out saying that they got a $15 million contract, then just to go back, do the research, see what the contract's about, see if you can do the scope of work, etc. So that's a really good marketing strategy.
Right. And one thing that I left out that you might just want to do in general is really just look at forecasting data. Not every agency has it, but a lot of them do.
Hold on, somebody, can I ask everybody to mute, please? Somebody needs to go to mute. We're getting some feedback.
Okay, I think that took care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, so some agencies have forecasting data. GSA is one of the better ones, not just because they have it, but they collect forecasting data from, I think it's like 5 other agencies. I'm not totally sure about that, but I want to say it's like 5 of them. You know, DOD is a lot more money, but they're not that great at that. But you know, if you have a customer that has forecasting data, then use it.
Mhm.
So forecasting data can tell you a lot. I'll say this briefly since we have a little bit of time. When I was in the San Antonio district office, I had a portfolio of 8A firms. So I did a bunch of other stuff, but like they were my priority. And so um, I go by KA, and I had a firm, and the owner's name, he went by AK. So AK would tell me about like how he would use FPDS and G. And like this guy was like some like technology savant or something. Like he could teach the class on FPDS, like knew way more than anyone I knew, definitely more than me. So he would use FPDS not just to forecast, but he would use it and like continue to track these requirements with these different agencies. And so when something wasn't going right, and you know, the CEO was like, I don't know what's happening with this contract. Guess who was swooping in to say, well, look, I'm here to save the day. You can use me. And this, I mean, he would clean up scraps for like all these like failed contracts. And if you talk to him, you wouldn't even think he had a contract. Like he was, you know, just had like super like humility. But even at the time, he was earning like at least 12 million. But he was always scrappy, always. So, you know, he used FPDS, I think, to its limits, like as far as it could go. So, you know, and that is kind of how he, you know, had I guess, a corner, if you will, on the market. So, you know, there's a lot of free information out there. You just got to figure out how to use it. Because FPDS doesn't cost anything. It's not user friendly, but it's free.
I mean, I love FPDS. I'm on FPDS every other day. Another site that I like is the acquisition.gov because it lists all the federal agencies and then it has all the forecast reports. And it has like 23 federal agencies on acquisition.gov, and you can actually go there and you can go in there, you can look at those procurement recurring reports, and you can click on and go right to that agency. So that's what we recommend that in our class, that the acquisition.gov and GSA eLibrary and the FPDS as sources for incredible information. So thank you for really sharing that.
Sure, sure. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm looking at the chat, you guys. While we have Kanika, you definitely should take advantage of it. Let me look at the chat. Hold on, okay, no, that was personal. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Can you shoot us any advice on, I guess, navigating through certified.sba.gov when applying for the mental program?
How so? I need something more specific.
Okay, well, I'm in here right now, and I noticed that back in 2020, back in COVID, I started just playing around in here and applying for the mentorship protege program. And then I can't remember why I stopped, but it looks like they were asking for a business plan. So on that alone,
business plan is no longer required. And I want to say it's probably still in there. Okay, so certified is not SBA's proudest moment. Let me just start there.
Okay.
It's just kind of like this sinking ship that keeps getting millions of dollars added onto it, but it just doesn't get any better. So there is currently a contract out there now. I've been working with some of the contractors for my program to actually make it better and make it actually do what it's supposed to do. Part of the reason why our office works so hard and why we're so slow is because we don't even operate in Certified. Like Certified does absolutely nothing nothing for my office. Mm-hmm. So we have this whole system that's like Excel logs, like more than one, with like more pivot tables than you can count in a day. which gets fed into like another system, and then like some Survey Monkey stuff. Like it's patchwork, definitely. So as far as applying, this is what I'll say. Again, you want to do this when you have your mentor, like, with you, and they know that you're doing this and you have an actual plan for what it is you want to do. I say this only because having been on the contracting side, the federal government is an unforgiving place. So this is not a place to practice, it's a place to know and to exercise what you know. And I say that in the most loving way, because I don't want you guys having like a negative CPARs or peepers or anything like that, because you're not exactly sure how things work, because it's tedious. So I will say that. Also, get all the certifications you can before getting your mentor protege agreement, because whatever you have, your joint venture will have. You can get them later, but to me, why do that? So if you want to become an 8A, do that and then apply for our program. As far as how to apply, I don't get to see the interface that you see, Keela, but what I will say is there's like tabs. I want to say they're on the left-hand side, like all the different steps of like what to do to like put in your application. I've been told by my team not to skip around. So even if you just need to do one thing, you need to go to like tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, and so on. And that way, like if you need to resubmit something to us at a later time, we actually get it. So I can give you that advice. You can skip the business plan. You don't have to give that. Like we don't look at them anymore. And other than just filling out everything in there on behalf of yourself and behalf of your mentor, we just need your MPA that's signed by both parties and dated. Mm-hmm. So that's the main document. And before you even do that, you need to take the tutorial. And then you sign the certificate and your mentor signs the certificate. And so that's the 3 documents: your certificate, the mentor certificate, and the MPA that is signed and dated by both parties. So those are the 3 things you need to put in for your mentor protege agreement application. Hopefully that helps. It's difficult to give you advice not seeing what you're seeing, but those are some of the biggest missteps. And if you have questions, send an email to our inbox and I can create a ticket for you. I'll either do that or I'll have the screener do that, and the help desk can help you with whatever issue there is. So hopefully I answered at least a portion of it. Was there a piece I missed, Keela?
I really can't say.
Yeah, it's a beast of a program. But if you do have questions, like honestly, just email us. Like that's what I do every day.
So Kanika, everybody's feeling sorry about you using Excel.
If you saw that document, like I'm not easily intimidated. I'm not fearful of very many things except for like maybe mice and roaches. But when I saw that Excel spreadsheet, I was like, what on God's green earth? Like what? It's crazy. It's wow. Crazy. And like the guy who runs it is like genius level. Like there's I can't even describe that thing to you. Like it's nuts. Like our contractors have seen it. Like we've shared documents with them to share data. No contractor will touch it. They're like, oh no, we don't know. We're good. We'll just create our own. We're good. Like it's a monster. It is a beast. So yeah, no one wants certified to work more than me and my team.
Well, Kanika, you gave us a lot of valuable information. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the presentation. So we have a few minutes because we're getting ready to close down. But any insights into what's going on with the WSB program? Now, right now, you can still certify yourself online, but are they going to make any changes where we can't do the self-certification? Do you have any insights regarding that? Because I know there's been a lot.
I don't. The only insight I have is stuff that, frankly, you guys don't care about. It's like operational stuff.
Okay.
Like reporting things like that. Like as far as like, is there like a rule change or something? I honestly don't know. I haven't heard of anything.
But basically, we can still self-certify online as of now. I'm sure. That's just wanted to clarify that. Okay, great. Okay.
Oh, if you were asking, I believe so. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. And I'm looking at the chat, and I think you answered most of the questions. If anybody has any comments or questions, please put them in the chat. We're getting ready to close out. It is now about 11:24. I want to be conscious. I know Kanika probably has all kind of meetings and things going on in her schedule. But I'm looking at the chat. Everybody's saying thank you. This was great information. They said we need an 8A roundtable next. Thank you. Great. Do businesses advertise that they are looking for proteges? Probably not. I think it's more.
Every now and then I'll have a mentor send an email and say like, well, I'm a mentor, so how do I find a protege? And it's kind of like just the opposite. They can research SAM and DSBS. DSBS is Dynamic Small Business Search. They can research those. And then they just need to forge relationships. I mean, everyone comes to me when stuff doesn't work. So that's why I give cautionary tales. But I've seen some relationships where the mentor isn't doing what they're supposed to do, but I've also seen some where the protege is like MIA. And, it's the mentor like, okay, well, how do we do this for the protege? And I'm like, I think you're asking the wrong questions. If you got to do that much work, you guys don't have a great relationship. So that's something you need to look at. But yeah, every now and then I have someone, but generally that doesn't happen that often, Antoinette.
Okay, before we close out, I think I have two hands that are up. I think I see Veronica's hands up and Amy. If you guys wanted to chime in for a second, we have a few minutes. Also, Keela says, what are the determining factors when assisting them in finding proteges? But we only have a few minutes, so I'm thinking the hands up. You guys want to chime in real quick?
Sorry, I know you touched on operations, and that's just something that I am currently dealing with. Okay. It's okay. I'll follow up and I'll see if I can get the answer offline. But thank you.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I think I didn't maybe say this correctly. The last question that Antoinette posed to Kanika was mine, so I don't have one anymore. So please feel free to take the time, Veronica.
Okay, Veronica, you want to go ahead? We have a few minutes.
Yeah. So okay. So I have a question, and I'm sorry if I'm taking it specifically. If you're planning on doing business with the entity and they ask you to send over an operation deck, can you explain what that looks like?
Like they're wanting you to send them your operating agreement? Is that the question?
No, it's not. It's not your business model. It's how they found they want us to show them or create an operations deck. So it's specifically like how we plan on fulfilling our business model, there they just want to know how we plan on doing business, specifically there. And they have a breakdown of details, but I've never been asked to do that. I don't even really know what that looks like. Do we include our capability statement? Any suggestions?
And they called it like a operation. Are you using the word deck, like DECK?
Yeah. So
never heard of it.
Yeah, no one seems to.
So yeah. Okay, so are they asking you to tell them how you plan to meet your business goals, like goals that would be in your business plan? Or is this more tactical than what's in like a overarching business plan. I'm not even sure like what it is they're trying to get you to provide.
Just how would you run the operation? So, they understand the concept. They want to know details, like how you'll run the operations, like with staffing, how you'll run the operations, like what parts of, so for us specifically of the airport, what parts of the airport would you need SIDA badging and access to? Who may be your affiliate partners, all of these different things, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to create the best contract for us.
I don't have anything on that. And this is for like maybe state and local work.
Yes.
That might be something you can reach out to the local PTAC or the SBDC, and maybe they have more experience with that, because the PTAC doesn't know just federal stuff. They know state and local as well. So they may have some samples, or, they may have some product for you to provide, or some template for you to use to provide the information that you're being asked to provide.
Well, Kanika, I want to thank you and close out. I want to be conscious of your time, to everyone's time. I want to thank everybody on the call for attending. And this was great information. And I hope that everybody on the call would take this information and just run away with it.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure to get to meet new people, and I wish you great and awesome success. And if my office can be of any assistance in the future, definitely let me know.